I wanted to cover this topic because it's a question that I get asked frequently, and that question is, why didn't Darth Nihilus kill Visas Marr? Or how I think it should actually be phrased, why did Darth Nihilus save Visas Marr? And you know, it's a very fair question to ask. Here we have this seemingly all-consuming, all-hungry Sith Lord, hell-bent on eating the galaxy just to satiate his hunger. But on the other hand, he has this young girl that he's bonded to that he didn't kill when he destroyed the planet Katarr. And the truth is, you could play Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 1,000 times and you would never actually come to a concrete answer on the matter. And that's because the potential hypotheses that you could form require a number of pieces of outside media to really understand Darth Nihilus beyond the kind of evil monster that the game portrays him as. These two pieces of media are the Unseen Unheard comic strip, which by the way is an awesome short little black and white comic that depicts Darth Nihilus' destruction of Katarr and how he found and saved Visas before the game, and the second piece of source material that is necessary into understanding how Darth Nihilus came into being and how the effect of the Force Wound affected him is in the Knights of the Old Republic campaign guide. It's only through these two pieces of outside media that you can actually come to, I think, a logical answer. So we have to ask the question, what is Darth Nihilus' goal, and where does this goal stem from? Of course, we all know that Darth Nihilus' main goal is just to consume the Force. He is more of a force of nature than a living, thinking man who is just kind of hell-bent on his next consummation of Force energy. And this is kind of only what Knights of the Old Republic depicts him as, and that's not necessarily the case. Now, a lot of what I'm going to tell you here is rather hypothetical on my end, or what makes the most sense to me, but just hear me out. So, in the campaign guide, it is explicitly stated that Darth Nihilus was present at the end of the Mandalorian Wars during the Battle of Malachor. Additionally, to become a wound in the Force, one must be sensitive in the Force, and given how powerful Darth Nihilus generally is, we can only add these things together to assume that Darth Nihilus was a Jedi during that final battle under Revan. This would also be thematically relevant to Mitra, as Mitra and Nihilus are supposed to be parallel opposites of each other, and if they were both Jedi who could form extreme bonds but went different ways, that would kind of make more sense. We also know, because of the campaign guide, that Nihilus wasn't evil. It is explicitly stated that after the Battle of Malachor V, he was trapped on the surface of this hellscape along with many other people. However, due to a strange illness, the pain of the loss of the bonds that he had formed, that of which Mitra completely disconnected herself from, it consumed him to the point where it created a void within him that began to grow, that being the wound. When this wound had formed, he without intent consumed another one of the survivors on Malachor, and it is also explicitly stated that this entire experience was extremely unpleasant and saddening for him. However, when he did this, the illness and the memories that were causing him such anguish disappeared for a moment. However, this also made him more hungry, and in turn fed the wound, which was only growing larger, and this need to consume Force energy just became worse and worse and worse, and he indulged himself in it just to numb both the hunger and the suffering. So from this, we can assume that Nihilus wasn't barbaric and evil in the sense that he enjoyed hurting other people, and I think this is a key bit of information when it comes to Visas Marr. Now, this is where the Unseen Unheard comic then takes over. I highly recommend just reading the comic. It's really short and you can find it online, but it's quite a cool insight into both Visas Marr and Darth Nihilus, but it essentially shows how Katarr was peaceful and how Nihilus' Ravager comes over and he consumes the planet. By the time of the end of the comic strip, it's explicitly stated that he saved Visas Marr because he wanted the last of the Miraluka to see. Now, this is kind of much like Kreia. He wanted planets and he wanted the galaxy to be forceless. Darth Nihilus believed that if he stripped the Force away, then finally people would be able to be free of it. And I think this goes to show that Darth Nihilus became hateful of the Force while also being dependent on it, and he wanted others, even if it meant through death, to be able to live without it, which is something he couldn't do. The Miraluka were an extremely Force-sensitive race, but I also personally believe that this decision to keep Visas alive was a small shred of remaining humanity that Darth Nihilus had. He, much like Visas Marr, was connected to an event of such devastation and such chaos, and I think he kept her alive and created the bond simply on the basis that he wanted someone to share his pain, somebody who would understand it. And another reason is because I genuinely believe that he felt some shred of humanity, perhaps his last ever shred of humanity, in the moment when he chooses to keep her alive. I think this because the Unseen Unheard comic also states that he didn't just save her from the destruction of Katarr, he also completely healed her of all of her wounds, and he ensured that she was completely healthy. And yes, you could argue he did remove the skin where her eyes were, so she could open them, but I don't think he did that out of malicious intent to cause pain or suffering, but it was a kind of thematical intent to finally allow her to be able to open her eyes and to see things. Darth Nihilus could have caused her an immense amount of pain, but he didn't. He completely healed her, he spared her and saved her from a guaranteed death, and then he formed a force bond with her, which is kind of the ultimate vulnerability, something that the Sith don't often do. He then trained her, made her his second in command, and this to me isn't the sign of someone who is evil and out to cause harm explicitly because he wants to, but somebody who wants to have somebody understand his suffering. To me, Darth Nihilus is a tragic villain. Everybody likes to consider him this all-powerful and all-cool because of the way he looks and sounds, but the reality is that Darth Nihilus is the result of a tragic event caused by Revan and Mitra that could have been avoided. The tragedy is that a man who, from what I can tell, was a good man was consumed by something he couldn't control to the point where he allowed it just to happen so he couldn't feel the pain anymore, to the point where he literally becomes non-human. And it is my personal belief that the reason he saved Visas Marr was because it was his last shred of self that connected to what was his humanity that chose to keep her alive. Now, you could obviously read this comic on the nose, and it could be that he just generally wanted her to suffer by having to see the world without the Force, but I don't think this is the case. Behind the mask was a character with so much thematical potential within Knights of the Old Republic 2 that just kind of got lost because of the constraints that the team were faced with at the time. But I do think that if he were given the screen time and the necessary development, that he would have been as interesting as a character as the Jedi Exile was, because he was the mirror to her and everything that she could have become, and it would have been awesome to see that in a little bit more detail. But I would absolutely love to know your thoughts, so please let me know down in the comments below what you think the reason was for Darth Nihilus saving Visas Marr. Do you agree with me and think that maybe it was his last shred of humanity that kept her alive? Or do you think it was Darth Nihilus having a nefarious intent? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button, which lets me know that you want to see more content like this. And also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want to see more Star Wars and Knights of the Old Republic content from me. Also, don't forget to come and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and join the Discord server because I would absolutely love to have you there. And if you'd like to support the channel even further, perhaps consider taking a look at Patreon, where you can join up for as little as $1 a month, and it really does go a long way. All links are in the description below. I'll see you guys in the next video. But until then, may the Force be with you. Always.